Hi, welcome to sweater weather everywhere other than Arizona and Missouri and Florida, Alabama. Well, okay, it's actually sweater weather here, but not all day long, just in the early mornings and in the evenings. And everyone keeps telling me it's going to be a really wild winter. And I hope so because we could use the moisture out here. But I know I am ready for something other than mega stinking hot. Hope you are too. Before we go any further, speaking of Florida, since it literally just came out of my mouth, my heart goes out to everyone at that part of the country, not just Florida, but also North Carolina. I think it made landfall in a couple places, but to everyone affected by the latest storm. For those of you who've been asking about Coach Janet, I have permission to tell you that her house is still standing. It is kind of miraculous. She will be going there for a few days. We weren't quite sure what the status was because she lives on Sanibel Island, Sanibel. It's the place you've seen on the news probably the most. Every time I turn on CNN, they're showing coverage of Sanibel, which is just decimated. For her, sorry, as I pull up her text this morning, just to read you what she said to me. We just received better news than we believe possible. First, our house watch guy, who stayed through the storm, is alive and well with his family. Today, he made it out to our house. It appears we only had water about 24 inches high, and their house is at 3 feet above sea level, which means they only had water in the garage, and it wasn't even enough to ruin the car. However, it's just staggering to think of the enormity of this situation and the homes near us that were ripped to shreds. Without exaggeration, it'll be years before it's even partially rebuilt. So it's hard to be joyous with so much lost. Lots of staggering emotions for me. Thanks to you and to everyone else who's been reaching out. If I haven't reached back, I'm just not in a place to, but I will soon. Love you. As of now, we're not completely pausing the extra mile, but Janet will not be back to the everyday. Of course, we would love to, if you can continue to support us. If you need us to pause your membership during this period, we'll let you know. She should be back on November the 1st. In action, she's also managing the hamstring issue, but we do believe that and the uncertainty around their home will be resolved pretty soon. So if you would like me to pause your subscription, reach out and let me know. She will be popping in to say hi a couple times this month. We just don't want to not her usual totally reliable schedule. So she'll be popping in to say hi. She'll be popping in to explain what's going on in her own words. But if you need me to pause your membership, do reach out and let me know for the extra mile. And for everyone else, if you were thinking of joining the extra mile, let's start that is probably not going to happen until November. It's still up on the site, but it's not going to be back to normal until November the 1st. So we're glad Janet is okay. We're glad her house is okay. And go Google survivor's guilt. My husband has a lot from the military. He survived a few situations that others did not. And we are glad that you are okay, Janet. We are glad that you did not suffer incredible loss. I know that there's got to be a lot of feelings that go along with getting out so lucky in this situation, and just know that you are loved and everything you feel is valid either way. But survivor's guilt is very, very, very real. Now, speaking of survivor's guilt, there might be a couple people, as much as I talk about it's not a normal year, and there are a lot of people who are feeling like they should be training but aren't training, or started to train and then things kind of turned. And I just want you to say, like, if you are one of the 3 people I'm aware of right now who are still training for a marathon, those 3 being Tamara Payton and Christy Harris, who's training for Houston. We have Karen Schluter, who's also training, I think, for Houston. We've got Adrian, though we've got more than 4. We've got Adrian, who's training for Philadelphia Marathon weekend. And there is a whole bunch of people. If you're thinking of doing a fall race, Philadelphia is around the 19th. It's usually the 3rd Sunday in November, the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And we have a whole bunch of people from FPP that'll be going there. If you're thinking of doing a race and been looking for something, that's one to think about. So it can be really tricky if your training isn't where you want it to be. And if you are having a really good training cycle in a time like now when so many aren't, that's okay too. We don't want you to feel bad about it. Whether you're where you want to be or not, like, there's room for everyone and there's room for all the feelings. So don't feel guilty if you're having a really good training cycle. Don't feel guilty. Try not to feel guilty if you are in a good place and you're in a lucky place. We love you and we support you 100%. So with that in mind, I am not training for a marathon right now. And I want to give you, because I don't like talking numbers a whole lot, because I feel like we usually use those to beat ourselves up or to fall into the same old patterns. Like I wrote this really thoughtful Facebook post on my personal Facebook page, which is only my friends can see it. It's not public, but the long and the short of it was I pulled out a pair of jeans that I had fallen like in the bottom of the back of my closet. And all clothing is really emotional for me. Like every single thing in my closet, I can tell you where I bought it, who I was with, like where I've worn it, and any memories that are associated with that piece. I don't have any neutral pieces of clothing. If I have a bad night out and I don't want to remember that night or a bad experience, whatever I was wearing is sold right away or boxed away to be dealt with when I'm ready to deal with the emotions later. Like that's how deep it goes for me with clothing. So in this Facebook post, I talk about a pair of pants that I found buried in the back of my closet. And my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, and I remember what I was going through when I bought them. These weren't happy memories. And I was smaller than usual, even for me. And I never wore the pants because I was really going through something at that time. And when I go through stuff, y'all, I don't eat. And back then, and I was a small person. This was easily the smallest I'd ever been. And I just didn't. I without going into the story about the pants themselves, my daughter comes running in, picks them up, is like, "Oh, Mom, these are awesome. Can I have them?" And just pulls them right on and zips them up. And they're a little big on her, but she can wear them. Like my 10-year-old daughter can wear those pants which funny enough, to give you context and perspective, they're the smallest I've ever been, and they're still 3 sizes away from plus size. So my 10-year-old, so the logic leap there is that my 10-year-old daughter is wearing jeans that I bought when I was in my early 30s. And even a 10-year-old, someone who's not in puberty yet, is still only 3 sizes away from plus size. That really was the takeaway. But because I said 3 spaces away from plus size, that triggered a lot of feelings in people. And I got a lot of DMs that were talking that were around not the point that I was trying to make. And this, granted, it wasn't the most articulate post I'd ever put out there. It was me sort of processing emotions. But I tell you that to tell you this, that I don't talk about numbers very often for that reason, because you comparing your number to my number might not be a good comparison of your time to my time. If I talked about the size of those pants, I was that size for maybe a month, and then things got better and I never went back and I didn't need those pants anymore. Right. So that number doesn't define who I am or who I was. It defines a really bad period. Numbers tend to not do that. We do not assign neutrality to numbers. We assign something concrete there. So at the risk of how wrong this could go, the number I'm going to share with you is 16. I am jogging a 16-minute mile right now. I've been faster than that before. Kind of like these jeans, I've been smaller. I've been faster and happier. I've been faster and sadder. I have been in a different place than I am at the moment. But I'm finally at a place where I can jog a 16-minute mile, and I can jog 2 or 3 of them in a row. And that to me feels like a huge win. So if there's a part of you that, and I know this is a usual complaint for people who are rebuilding, people who are coming back to fitness after a while away, people who really don't have a good way to judge, where they are in the grand scheme of things, and lack the perspective that, hey, these really tiny jeans that never really should have fit you will fit a 10-year-old, right? That sort of like thunder perspective that none of us really have in any given moment, when that moment is not a happy one. I just want you to know that I'm out there jogging at a 16-minute mile. Doesn't mean this is where I'm going to be forever, but this is where my body is right now. And it's partially there because of long COVID. I got COVID back in May. And to recap, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your body, but I am a coach that advises, running. And it's really hard to run with long COVID. So if you get the COVID, you cannot rest enough, because long COVID is the failure of the body. You get the general metabolic disorder, which I have, POTS, which I have, and trouble breathing, which I have. And all 3 of these things make it really hard to run. So if it was hard to come back before, it is a lot harder now. And a couple more days rest, if it could keep long COVID away from you, just take it. If your body is saying, we don't need to do this right now, just listen. And that's okay. And you know who did that this week? Erin Manter-White. And I would love to give her all the props in the world for this. Erin Manter-White has been training for a half marathon. She was supposed to run it today, and she woke up and said, you know what? No. She had a few things going on, was going through some stuff. had a panic attack. And a panic attack, for those of you who've never had one before, this is more than just being like really nervous. This is sort of the experience, because I've had both panic attacks and anxiety attacks. It feels, anxiety attack is sort of like the lesser cousin, but it's still like a really heightened state. You can be in that heightened state kicking out cortisol for 3 hours or longer. Okay. The reason that 3-hour number matters, and I want you to remember it, is that that's a half marathon. So she woke up, was going through some stuff. Your body does not distinguish between psychological and physiological stress. When she had that panic attack, she used up her energy reserves, and she was like, you know what? I could run this race, but I don't think it's a good idea. And I validate that. And that was a very good idea not to go. You would not have had the day that you wanted. So way to listen to your body, way to sort of respect its limits, because it's okay to have limits. They don't make you weak and they don't make you less than. It's saying, you know what, I think I might have burned through my energy stores before the race even started. DNSing in this environment and hustle culture, where we're told that quitting is the worst thing you could possibly do, or not showing up is the worst thing you could possibly do. It's a lie, by the way. It's not showing up and saying like, I'm just going to do what I need to do and I'm going to not do the thing, is infinitely more difficult than showing up and doing the thing, even if you know you're not ready to. So you did the hard thing, you did the right thing, and Coach is proud of you, Erin Manter-White. Congratulations. So that's a lot of bigger talk. We only had a couple questions this week, so I sort of wanted to go through all of that. Congratulations to everyone who is having an awesome year and an awesome training cycle. If that is not where you are, if this is a rebuilding year, it is for me too. Yay. 16-minute miles, though, are better than what I was able to do before, which was absolutely nothing. So I am, even though I don't want to, most days I'm listening to my body. This is 3 days. I've had a really good run there for 7 days. I was able to go every other day. And so not being in a place where I'm like, these past 3 days I've had so much going on. I have not been in a place to go for a run, and that kind of hurts me down in here. I know it's the right choice, but it hurts. It's not what I want to do. If you're doing not what you want to do right now, that is the hardest thing. Like running more slowly than you want to go in any given moment is the hardest thing you'll ever do, especially if you're standing still. And so I just want you to know that I see you, I feel you, I'm there with you. And in these moments, standing still is the right thing. Not moving forward is the right thing. And, that's what office hours are for. Hit me up, go ahead and schedule, and let's talk it through. October went out yesterday, a day late, and I apologize for that. Like I said, it's been a heck of a week. And I would like to thank Laura Hazen for pointing out that I did not attach the correct. It's always something every month is strength. The correct video will be going up in a little bit. I didn't have a chance to sit down and correct it today, but that will be coming up soon. And I think that's pretty much all I had to say, because you don't need me to tell you about pumpkin spice lattes or sweaters or soup, right? I mean, I could talk sweaters all day long. I love a good chunky sweater. And I love a good chunky soup too. It's just not today when it's 84 degrees and I'm sitting here, menopause, sweating through everything that I'm wearing in this hot little room, waiting to go downstairs back into the air conditioning. Here we go. Annie did a 30-minute run today. She reports she's shaping up to run 5 times this week for the first time in a long, long, long time. Yay. That's amazing. Congratulations, Annie. It's a big deal, even if you're not like running. And I know a lot of people tend to like sort of poo-poo walking or run walking. And I just want you to not, if that happens to be, I want you to own it and be excited about it, because if we keep the heart rate low and slow, even if it's just walking, you can get out there possibly 5 days a week. Because what we want to do is like not overdo it. Like I tend to do. I go out there. I feel really good, and I'll jog for my 16-minute miles. If I do 3 of them, that's 48 minutes, right? And then I'm like, oh, just one more. I really should have cut it off at 2, but I didn't want to because it felt good. Well, then I pay for it. Then I can't really, I don't have enough energy, or I don't feel recovered 3 days later to be able to go again. So if you can be smarter than me, which is really hopefully easy to do, but I know how hard it is. If you can be smarter than me and resist it and keep those blocks shorter, instead of long, low and slow, go short, low and slow, short, low and slow. And you can do that 5 times a week. You will see improvements a whole lot faster than I'm able to do right now. So I usually preach what I practice, but I'm telling you, I feel you how hard it can be to practice this way. Everything's easy when you're fit. When you're not where you want to be yet, man, everything else is just like, what are they going to take? And I'm so bargaining when I'm out there. Okay, now for the questions. I'm getting over the world's worst cold. It's been a solid week and I'm itching to get back outside, but I'm still coughing and kind of congested. I'm afraid to overdo it and make myself worse. How do I know when I'm good to run again? I know this is going to sound silly, but you'll know. And there won't be a question. So I wrote a blog post a while ago, and Aaron Harkness, if you're watching this, remind me to go back through the blog and dig it out because I know, or to repost the link because I know it's in there. But I had finite rules about running when you're sick. So if you can't breathe, you can't run is the big one. If you're coughing stuff out of your lungs, a lot of coaches will tell you that's okay. I disagree in this time of COVID. I might have agreed with that 5 years ago, but I'm like, if there's sputum coming out, I don't care what color it is. Whatever you're doing you're giving your sorry. What your body is telling you that in order to clear out your airways so that it can breathe, it's going to be scarring itself a little bit. So I don't like the idea of running if you have a wet cough. A dry cough might be okay. Like that's more for you to sort of figure out, but running with a dry cough in the winter is miserable because it's really going to hurt your throat. If you're kind of congested, again, just be careful. If you can, there's nothing wrong with going out and walking. If you can take your asthma medication or your allergy medication and go out for a power walk, there's a lot of validity there. You're getting the time on your feet. You're getting the cardiovascular benefits. You're getting the crucial adaptations to your tendon, joints, and ligaments. There's nothing wrong with a good walk. I would sort of be like in that, if you can't breathe good, you're not going to run good. If your body is using its energy to heal and recover, it's not really the time to ask it to train too, because your body doesn't BOGO, your body doesn't multitask. Right? It really wants to devote all of its energy to resting, drink lots of tea, rest. When you will know it's time, not because you feel guilty, but because you feel it literally in your muscles. For me, if I wake up and I feel there's like a pop in my legs, sort of like an energy, like just energy going through it. And I'm like, I want to move. That doesn't really go away. If you listen for it and you wait for it, once it reappears, that's the time to go with it. If you are hacking up a lung or even coughing a little bit and you can't really breathe and you're thinking to yourself, I really should run, then ask yourself, that's not your body you're listening to. That's guilt. That's ghosts and bullies past. That's you feeling pressure to do something that's not your body telling you to go. Right. So you'll know when it's time to go. If you're tuned into your body and you're listening, your body's probably not going to want you to do anything other than rest if you're sick. So there's no such thing, as far as I'm concerned, with waiting too long. Like I know a lot of people are like, I've been resting for 3 days. I should feel better. I'm like, it might be 2 weeks. And that's okay. Because the last thing you want, I've said it before, I'm going to keep saying it. The last thing you want is all the complications that come along with long COVID. Okay. Better to take a couple extra days of resting and avoid long COVID for months and months and months than to feel better about being back on your feet in 2 days, only for your body to just say, actually, we weren't ready to do this, and we're going to make you slow back down. Okay. I've been moving towards more minimal shoes, no particular reason, other than I'm finding I like the toe movement, ground feel, and flexibility. It's valid. I've gone from Brooks to Ultras, and that took a long time to adjust to. That's valid. Now I'm finding I'm attracted to even more minimal, and I moved into zero shoes. What kinds of transition do I need to do with those? So you need to walk in them a lot. And I mean, walk a lot. As awkward as it might be or feel. I don't do a lot of walking in my running shoes. But for this, I would. You need to be, what I don't want you to do is go running in a zero, in like a super minimalist shoe, and then spend the rest of your day at work walking around in a high heel or some sort of cushioned shoe with an 8mm drop. We need to be spending as much time for that first month as we can in flats. And even though I know ballet flats are just not comfortable on there, they tear your feet up. But so maybe if you have the option to walk around and do a lot of egregious walking. So you need to get your calves, your ankles, and your heel cup. All of those muscles in there are the ones that are going to start screaming at you from when you start using them differently, right? Because when you have that drop, you're going to be doing more with your forefoot and working your midfoot. When you have no drop whatsoever, your heels and your calves are going to be coming to play in a brand new way. So if you see my my Facebook story, I've got like little miss thick calves. That's me. This is another common complaint I get from people who are like, when I jog the way you tell me to jog and I go really slow, my calves get really big. I'm like, well, yeah, you're using your muscles efficiently. It'll happen. And so this, as you adapt to your new stride, you're going to be using new muscles in a new way. You're going to be using more efficiently. You're going to need to mobilize them a whole lot more. You're going to need to either like go back. I've got the video of me using technique on the blog. You're going to want to do a lot of scraping of your Achilles tendon. You're going to want to do a lot of scraping of your shins. Reason being, if your Achilles is overloaded, then your shins are too. Even if the pain isn't in your shin, you need to mobilize your front shins a lot. You need to mobilize the back. You need to massage. You need to you can't spend enough time giving your heel cup and on your Achilles all the way up into your soleus muscle, all the TLC that you can muster. You know, put a Theragun on it, scrape it, rub it, lots and lots of foam rolling, and rolling the soles of your feet too every single night. Now I know that kind of goes against the common wisdom where people are like, you want to ease into them slowly. I'm like, well, we're here. Walk in them all the time, run in them a little more carefully. I would rather you spent more time walking in them and then eased into running with them, because you said you've got these other shoes, the Ultras, which are slightly less minimalist. Go back and forth depending on, and listen to your body on this as well. In a day when your calves feel tight, go with the Ultras with a little bit more rise. On a day when you feel good or you're not feeling anything in your feet, that'll be a pretty good sign to go with your zeros. So one is not specifically better than the other. It's just understanding that we are changing the demand on our body when we change the shoe on our foot. I appreciate you asking this question. So walk as much as you can in the minimalist shoe. Alternate when you're running between none and a little, and try not to overthink it too much. The only time I make a face is when people read that book Born to Run and then decide they want to run. They want to go from like the Brooks Ghost, which is a super cushiony stability shoe, to running in Vibram 5 Fingers, which has no cushion, no support. And I mean, if you step on something, depending on where you run, you could be taking a risk. That is a huge change right there, to go from a whole lot of shoe with a whole lot of protection to absolutely none. And that is not what you're doing here, right? You are acknowledging what you're taking away. And that's really smart. The only time I really get worried though is when someone's like, I need to do this most natural thing ever. And it's like, we got to really work our way into those. It's going to be like months before you can run in a Vibram 5 Fingers. And I don't even know that it's better to run in a Vibram 5 Fingers, as people get hurt a lot. So yeah, as long as you're listening to your body and not being led by your ego or whatever sort of goal we might say, I want to be running in these 5 days a week by November the 1st. Like, for what? Take all the time you need, settle in. Don't get a bigger medal for getting there first, but you can win more visits to the PT if you're not paying attention to your body, listening to it, and taking care. So that's what I have to say about that. Happy October. You're coached. You are loved. Let's keep winning at pumpkin spice season. And I know I'm going to go watch Hocus Pocus 2 with my kids right now. Have a good one, y'all.